Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Patreon exclusive episode of the Friday Nightmares podcast. On this episode, we are going to be running down our top 5 favorite monsters and movies. And with you, as always, Mr. Smoke Show Crawford, coming to you from the town of Swartz Creek in the county of Genesee, in the state of Michigan, in the United States of America, in the North American continent, in the Western Hemisphere, on the planet Earth, in the Milky Way galaxy. I'm fully vaxxed, waxed, and ready to be called daddy. And if you can please get me wet and feed me after midnight. And with me, as always.
Thanks, Scott. It's like, I know you did your intro, but there's other people here. Heather Powell coming to you from Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. And with all of our top 5 episodes, we always have a very special guest with us. And today is no exception. So the gentleman that we brought in with us today is one of the original podcasters that I started listening to, one of the first people that reached out to me and asked me to be on his show. We did the epic show Legend, which was a lot of fun. Also, I used to do fan mail for one of his other shows. I would listen and then send in feedback, which is, I think, how I got on the show in the first place. He has been on Fresh Cuts, No More Room in Hell, Summer Series, 22 Shots, Silo Dissection, Cinema Attacks, Exploding Heads. I believe he's also been on Cut to the Chase. He also does We're Here. Like, what does this man not do? Plus, Underwater Kaiju. I don't know if that's still going on, but he's been on it. Please say hello to Derek B. Derek, welcome.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Coming from the sweet sounds of Boston, Mass.
Derek, we're so excited to have you here. Scott and I have been such big fans of you and have always enjoyed working with you. Do you mind telling everyone a little bit about your history with horror movies or monster movies or both, and then how you got into horror podcasting?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Horror movies in general, just cousins' VHS collections. You know, like you used to find like those old recording like VHSs that have, you know, it's like they did like the illegal thing where they rented the movies from Blockbuster and had the 2 VHSs hooked up and recorded like a bunch of movies on them. And I seen some weird movies from that time period. You know, that I didn't even know that. Can I find this anywhere? And you know, a few of them I have found, like Scarecrows.
That movie's so fun.
Anguish with the chick from Poltergeist. Help me, this house is clean. And, you know, in various other movies, you know, just growing up with cousins, you watching horror. One of the first horror movies that I remember, like, and this is like a perfect gateway movie, and it kind of is involved with like the subject at hand today, is The Monster Squad.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I used to watch that back to back, rewind it, rewatch it again. That was just a fun one from my childhood that I always remember. It's a good gateway horror film too for younger generation, especially ones that are like, oh, Wolfman's got nards, you know.
Absolutely. I think you make a good point. It's a great gateway film.
Yeah, and you know, like that. And then I got into like, you know, I was like, yeah, I like the monsters. I like the terror of them. I like all different types of monsters too. You know, like, even like the Universal classics, I'm a big fan of. I've seen a lot of those maybe in my teens, I would think. Like, yeah, like 10s to like 15, maybe. I was like, okay. The first one I probably remember seeing was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which is kind of like a horror comedy, you know, in that sense. It was like, oh, the Wolfman and Dracula and Frankenstein. And, you know, I've been watching a lot of, like, I went on to, like, Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, which is probably the best Universal Mummy movie.
Yeah, I remember those. I loved Abbott and Costello movies. I thought they were funny, and they were just like, for the time, they had a little bit enough of like cool monsters in it to make it entertaining too.
For sure. And, you know, like, yeah, I was always into like the black and white, like 50s B movies, like them, The Beast from 20,000 Phantoms, that, you know, those ones really sink your teeth in. The first thing I remember is I actually read the story that The Beast from 20,000 Phantoms was based off of The Foghorn by Ray Bradbury. And
nice.
Yeah, I was like, Harryhausen and Ray Bradbury, sign me up, you know. And, you know, of course, that movie led to the inspiration to make probably the movies that are, you know, the giant monster movies of like the Japanese, like Godzilla is based off The Beast from 20,000 Phantoms. That was the inspiration for that movie, and the original King Kong, you know, in that sense. And, you know, I love giant monster movies like Godzilla. I love Godzilla films. You all know that.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot of them I would not consider horror. Usually the late 70s ones where it's like all goofy and you hear like weird like music, and then they introduce Godzilla's son. I'm like, wow, this series took a turn.
Yes, it did. Those are the ones I actually grew up on when I was a kid.
Oh, me too. And I'm not saying they're bad or anything, but it's like I would like if I was to bring one of those to the table, like, yeah, Son of Godzilla. That's definitely that's a horror movie, like but yeah, that's not, there's only a few that I consider actually personally horror, but they're all fun. And I like that the thing with Godzilla is he's been thrown into so many different situations. It's kind of cool to see him like I know a lot of people actually hated these ones, but the anime trilogy that was on Netflix, I kind of like the aspect of it where it's like a science fiction tale with Godzilla in the middle of it, so I'm cool with like throwing him in different types of scenarios and storytelling. It makes it interesting and fresh.
That's awesome. What about your horror podcasting? I listed off, I think, all the shows you've been on, but why don't you tell everyone how you got into it and where they can find you right now?
Sure. Pretty much my horror podcasting roots started because I followed the 22 Shots of Moods and Horror. As you guys know, one of the hosts, Jeremy, at the time left for a while, and they had a few guest hosts here and there, like to fill in that void of getting a third person, so because they have like that Hall of Fame type stuff that goes on. And one day, out of luck, I actually had all the movies for the planned Ozploitation episode. So JP was like, why don't you come on and just make sure it's okay with movies? And I was like, okay. So that was my first episode with them. And then they couldn't get rid of me after, because we did When the Stranger Calls. Then we went into like the Italian Horror Month, which is pretty fun. And that's where I got my catchphrase name 10 out of 10 Derek from, because I put Demons in the Hall of Fame. Like, I love that movie. It's like top 3 horror movies for me. And then the last show I did as a kind of like a regular host on that was the Hatch trilogy.
Nice.
Which I actually kind of, everyone was asking me, are you going to be on episode 100? I'm like, because I had to keep the secret because I knew that Jeremy was coming back. So maybe, I don't know. We'll see, but then I started my own show, Cinema Attack, which had 2 incarnations. The first one only was short-lived with 4 episodes with Brandon and Charlene.
Well, Brandon probably ruined that, right? We all know that's the truth.
Honestly, I think it was the Shark Week episode that ruined that.
See, we just blame Brandon for everything that goes wrong.
It's all Brandon's fault.
It's always Brandon's fault. Who? It's Matt, and who are your two?
Dub and Matt, who are
nice.
We were on the YouTube channel Body Bags before that. I was like, Matt's been doing podcasts, and Dubby wanted to get into podcasting. So that was cool. I was like, okay, I'm back in, and then, I started celluloid dissections with my friend Carly I want to say it last 2 years ago at this point. We started to have talks with that. Yeah. We had her on Cinema Attack, and I enjoyed talking to her because she had like a fresh perspective of a lot of movies, because she's a lot younger than us. She has like that knowledge of we could be like blowing, sucking these movies off, and she'd be like, fuck this movie. I kind of like that aspect, and I wanted that with like different types of movies, and it was going good for a while, but then as even I do it sometimes, she was getting a little burnt out with all the podcasting. Like even like today, I actually posted my first YouTube video after over a year and a half, maybe. So I got burnt out on that, and so I understand. So I'm like, that's okay with this ended, but I'm actually bringing that back as Celluloid Dissections Redux. I actually have a few episodes recorded already, but they're not out yet. I'm just working on some intro and outro kinks with that one, but it'll be out soon enough with the first episode of that. Had some great discussions so far. Awesome. Especially me and Bo actually did Blue's the Warmest Color.
Nice. Yeah, Bo's great to work with.
Yeah, it was a great conversation, and I can't wait to release that one, and because I get really personal on that one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm
But-
excited to hear that then.
But then, of course, we know the infamous Mike Merriman, who
Where we would be without Mike Merriman, really.
Mike Merriman, or as I call him, the Snorlax. He I guessed it on a few episodes of Fresh Cuts, and he had evil episodes at the time. I guessed it on an episode of that, and Mike was creating a new show. Originally, I said no, actually, ironically enough. And it was him, Venom, and Corey Graham at the time. I was like, I'll do guest spots. I don't care. So it ended up like being just me and them one episode, and Corey came, and it was like the four of us for a while. Then Corey had to leave for personal reasons, so it's just the three of us, and it's me driving Mike mad, talking about Marvel movies and comic book movies, because I know he fucking hates them. I'm like, you haven't watched them, so why are you judging a movie before you watch at least watch it before you could have a fucking opinion, Mike.
That's a valid statement, Derek. You're 100% right. I gotta say, I do love the three personalities. Yours, Venom's, and Mike's really do complement each other on No More Room in Hell.
It does, especially when it comes to when you watch a movie like Houseu and you're like, I don't know how to talk about this movie. It's so weird. Can I smoke a blow bone right now?
Well, I know
you kind of need to for that movie.
Yeah.
You had Scott and I on Cinema Attacks, and we had a great time with your co-hosts. That was a lot of fun. I think we covered 3 movies.
Yeah, we did.
Right?
Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yep.
Oculus and Under the Shadow.
Yep.
Which was a great discussion because we were all in different fucking places on that one. We had
a really good time.
Yeah, that was a great review and show, and we definitely will have you guys back when you guys are a little bit more into it. I know you guys are all busy with your other shit too.
Yeah, Scott keeps creating shows. Like we have this video game show that he hasn't even like rescheduled. We'll have to have you on that because I'm pretty sure you play video games, Derek.
Here and there.
Okay.
I don't actually own any consoles besides like a Switch. I believe that's the fuck they call them now.
Yeah, that's Switch.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'll talk about. Super Smash Brothers.
You can definitely talk about Super Smash Brothers. We are open to anything, but Scott's on a break right now. When he gets around to booking a date, we'll let you know.
Yeah. Probably going to be after my visit to Heather, because just got a lot going on preparing for that.
Oh, well, he's got to prepare. He's got to save his liver, try to take some multivitamins.
It's all those chugging videos finally caught up with him.
Dude, it's going to get worse when he comes here. But thank you so much, Derek, for being here again and giving us an overview. We'll do some more shout outs at the end. Because we definitely want people to check you out on all the different podcasts that you're on, because you always bring the knowledge.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say I'm glad that you're on here, especially for this is a very specific you episode here, because I know you are a big fan of the monsters as well as I am. So it's like we wanted to work with you again on our and have you on one of our shows, and what better topic?
Yeah, but stuff. Scott doesn't know anything, so
exactly.
we just make shit up as we go. So how we're going to do this is we're going to do our shout outs for those of you who listen to our top 5. There may be spoilers that we give about some of these movies. Like, it is what it is. We have no hard and fast rules. We're very loosey goosey. If you think it's a monster movie and you think it's horror, we don't give a fuck. We allow your opinion to be heard. Scott, do you want to lead us off with your shout outs, and then we'll go to Derek and then to me?
Yeah. So, I like always, I have 5 different honorable mentions I wanted to give a shout out
5?
to. Yep.
I'm just kidding.
Damn right. So yeah, the first one, what is a monster movie if I cannot talk about The Thing from 1982?
Mm-hmm.
The only reason this is not in my top 5 is just because I could not pick one version of The Thing to choose out of this movie. Like, there's just so many variations of what this creature looks like. So I just kind of said, I'm just going to throw this as my honorable mention, because the monsters in this are all unique and disturbing, and still to this day, some of the best practical effects I've ever seen in my life.
The dog one always creeps me out the most. What about you, Derek?
Yeah, the dog one's pretty good, and I also like Mega Blair at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the head spider. I love the head spider.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah. And also in this similar vein, Derek mentioned him a bit earlier, but I chose Godzilla for the honorable mentions just because there's not one version of Godzilla I could sit here and pick, because he's changed throughout the many years of films that he's been in. So Godzilla was another honorable mention because, yeah, I mean, he's the true king of kaiju. I freaking love them. Grew up watching them as a kid, so I had to bring it up. This one's going to be the controversial pick, but it is Christine. I picked Christine because, in a way, it is a monster just because it is a vehicle that is like supernaturally possessed, but it is also thinks on its own, has its own personality. And this one I picked mainly because of the connection I have with this film, and that is because my brother, who passed away over 5 years ago, this was his all-time favorite movie. So I'd be remiss not to bring this film up. I love Christine, and I watch it every year around his birthday. So I had to bring it up.
And I googled it, and it's considered a monster from Monster.
Yeah,
Film.
when you told me that, that's why I was like, "Yep, it's going on my honorable mentions list for sure."
Well, she is bad to the bone.
Damn
absolutely.
Right she is. And she is my dream car. If I ever could afford to get 57 Plymouth, oh, I would so get one.
When you're living your best life, Scotty, one day.
Exactly. And then the other one I wanted to bring up is Graboids from Tremors, because I just love the concept of these giant underground worms that, and I'm talking the Graboids themselves from Tremors 1, none of the weird mutated variations that come out throughout the franchise.
No ass blasters.
Yeah, no ass blasters. But no, I just love the concept of these just giant worms that pretty much sense and attack people by their vibrations in the ground, which makes it so it's almost impossible to escape them. And I love the design of them with their multiple mouths and tongues, and just they're creepy ass creatures. And then I also wanted to talk about Predator, because he is the ultimate hunter and just super high tech alien life form. But man, is the costuming design for this so freaking incredible and creepy. It scared the living hell out of me when I was a kid. And I'm so glad they didn't go with that weird red lobster looking thing that I think Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to be in the suit for.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was an awful design. So I'm glad they didn't go with that. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. So we will pass it over to Derek.
Yeah, this might be interesting because, well, first one I chose was any of the creatures from Frankenstein's army.
Oh, nice.
I couldn't just pick one because they're all unique in their own way. That's just a fun popcorn found footage movie that I like. Doesn't even make sense why it's found footage, but I don't care. I still
need to see that movie.
Yeah, because once you see like a propeller with legs, you're like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah.
Okay, I'm sold already.
This might be hilarious, but I chose the monster from The Host, which, if you didn't know this guy, his name is Steve Buscemi.
Really?
We did not know that.
Yeah, the Bong Joon-ho actually named it Steve Buscemi.
That's awesome. It's a good monster too. It's creepy.
Yeah.
I chose this might actually be a spoiler for the movie Louise from Spring.
Oh yes, I love Spring.
I haven't seen Spring.
Oh, I'm not sure if that'll be a movie you would like nearly as much as I do, because it's definitely one of those relationship-based horror films.
Okay.
But I fucking love it.
Nice.
Very Lovecraftian.
Yeah. And I chose the Xenomorph from Alien.
Nice.
Awesome list, Derek. All right, so my list is not nearly as long for shout outs. I chose the entity from It Follows as a shout out because it does take different shapes and forms. You think it's a ghost, but it's not a ghost because it comes in different, either it's an old man or it's an old woman, and the speed at which it moves is just so slow and determined. I always found that really creepy, and I thought that movie, well, it's one of my favorite all-time horror movies because I just think the concept is brilliant. And I think the execution is really well done too, but I've always appreciated that monster. And the other one I want to mention is Rat People from The Descent.
Oh, nice.
Because I thought if I was in that situation and I came across people or monsters that looked like that, I'd be poo-pooing my pants because I'd be so scared, right? And even the scene where she's hiding in the, I think it's like mud and feces or whatever it is, the water, and she goes under, and they sense by hearing, right? That's what it is. They have incredible hearing. and she's trying to hide. I always found that scene so suspenseful as they're looking for her, and I'd be terrified if things that looked like that were looking for me. So that's why I had to give a shout out to the rat people.
Hell
That's
yeah.
a good pick right there.
Yeah, and then the rest, I like Scott had mentioned some of the top ones, so I don't think there's anything really else to add. And then there's only one I'll throw out at the end if no one mentions it as a shout out, but I think it's kind of basic, so I don't want to use it yet.
Fair
so
enough.
I guess we'll start with Scotty's number 5.
All right. So my number 5, I seen this movie when I was a kid. It is hokey. It is cheesy. I fucking love it to this day. And that is the monster from Terror Vision.
Oh.
Basically, what is Terror Vision? I may actually put that song at the end of this since we can play licensed music on our Patreon show.
Oh, right.
But yeah, the reason I love the idea that this is just an alien life form that was created for basically it was a living garbage disposal for these aliens. And the concept of it just all of a sudden, it's because it's based in the 80s. So it's got these people get this huge satellite and are all blown away by how many channels they can get on their TV. And the satellite somehow picks up the monster and teleports it into their TV, which he can use to change channels and then hop out of the movie. I just love the design of it. It's just this big, slimy, ball-shaped thing with giant googly eyes rolling all over the place, and its mouth is just constantly chopping and has weird-ass tentacles with eyeballs that he can apparently turn in. He can make the tentacles look like other people, like at least their heads, and they're all slimy looking, but they like have their voices and everything. It's just a really well designed, like low budget style monster. And for most monster films, they usually like hide their creature in the dark until like the big reveal at the end. And this, no, it's John Carl Buechler. So they're just like, yep, we're putting this full front. You see the monster from the beginning throughout the whole thing, and it looks amazing. Just love this creature.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's a great movie. I had fun with that one a lot.
Yeah, it is so corny, and I freaking love it.
Especially when you watch on rewatch, when you just see like all these weird sex paintings and shit on the wall.
Yes, because the parents are like the kids' parents are huge swingers.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
Right?
Right.
But Derek, what is your number 5?
My number 5, for spoilers for how we're recording this, my video is not working, but I'm actually wearing a shirt for this guy right here, and that is Pumpkinhead.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, this is a movie I actually recently talked about on my own show, Cinema Attack. I just love how straightforward this is. It's just a revenge tale. A breezy 88 minutes long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And the look of the creature is so alien to itself, created by Stan Winston's crew of people, especially during that time period. And I just love the atmosphere of this movie and how this creature just fucks with people. It just fucks with them. Like that one lady, he's just crawling a crucifix on her head and shit. It's great. I love the look of the creature. My favorite shot of the monster, of course, is the scene where Lance Henriksen's character gets stabbed with a rake, and you can see like it's transforming into Ed Harley.
Yes.
Slowly, where you see Lance Henriksen's face actually on the monster. And it's so creepy and unsettling that I dig it. It's the best the monsters looked, in my opinion, because I actually like the Sci-Fi Channel sequels, but that's when they cheapen up on the suit a lot.
Yeah, I haven't bothered with any of the sequels yet, but I've been wanting to at least check them out at some point.
Right. Well, it's so funny because my number 5 was Pumpkinhead as well.
Nice.
But I did bring it back up because you did such a great job of talking about Pumpkinhead. But I chose him for the same reason you did, Derek. I think he's a badass demon that comes to fuck shit up. And I think the costume design, especially for 1988, was just so detailed and amazing. Like, I feel like the 80s, I actually pulled a lot of stuff from the 80s because I really do feel like they used practical effects extremely well. They didn't have CGI, right? So they were kind of resorting back to what they could use. So my replacement was the Leprechaun.
Oh, nice.
From the Leprechaun 1993 and 2018.
Nice.
Both Leprechauns I greatly enjoyed, and I found the 2018 movie a great sequel to the original. And I found that it kept the sense of humor the kind of like the creepiness of it, and like how he just looks gross. Like he just looks like he has warts and grossness all over his body. He's what you would think a scary, terrifying leprechaun would look like, and the Irish accent is just spot on. Awesome monster. And if Pumpkinhead's already been said, so I'll acknowledge Leprechaun is my number 5.
Nice. Yeah, well, speaking of Pumpkinhead, my number 4 was Pumpkinhead.
We all love Pumpkinhead, clearly.
Yeah. So I will switch it up as well. And one that was in this place until I kind of switched around my list was the spiders from the mist.
Oh,
nice.
I just love I can't remember who did the effects for this one.
K&B, I think.
Okay, K&B did. Okay. But I love just the design of these spiders because they're very 70s B movie style with the way the monsters are done in this film. And I love that Frank Darabont went with that as wanting that to be the design of the creatures, because that's kind of how it seemed like in the book as well. But I love the look of them because they are like almost have like a human skull face to them. And they're just so fucking creepy. And like, you don't want to have to deal with giant spiders as it is, but then giant spiders that spit like an acidic venom or an acidic webbing. Oh, that's even worse. But yeah, that is going to be my number 4 because yeah, Pumpkinhead is amazing. Freaking love it. But yeah, I wanted to bring at least something different. So there we go. Derek, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is actually a film. This is actually one of the few films where I actually tear it up to, and it is The Monster from The Monster.
I don't think I've seen this film.
That is such a good freaking pick. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's from the same guy who did The Strangers, Brian Bertino. Great performances by Zoe Kazan and the little girl who plays her daughter in the film. It's a very interesting movie because, it talks about like the relationship with the mom and the daughter. And the mom, when we first meet her, she's not a very likable person at all. No, especially in some of the flashback scenes we see. Yeah, I'm like, I want this bitch to die. But then what this movie interpretates, they face this fucking monster in the middle of the road. I like that it all takes place really in this like one setting of their car, and then another car later. And then, it's them trying to survive against this creature. And the thing I like about the monster, it's a practical effect. It's super, they play with it with the lighting, and it actually works for this movie's ability with the lighting of the creature, because it's all black and you can see it in shadows really until you get a good look at it like later on in like the sequence that involves the ambulance. But yeah, I actually like the story of it, and it did make me tear up at the end, especially something that happened within the film, which I don't want to really spoil if you haven't seen the movie, but let's just say it made me like, oh, that's a good character trait that happened in the movie.
Yeah, because this is one that I wanted to do, like, if we ever do the theme episode on addiction, I want to do this film. Because this film like covers addiction very well, and it's just Monster is just incredible in it.
Well, I think you both have really praised it. I'm definitely going to have to check it out.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think you would like it.
Awesome. So my number 4, thankfully, it has not been mentioned, but it's Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
I had a feeling that would be on your list.
Feed me, Seymour.
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me. So my history with this is I saw Little Shop of Horrors as a play. So I was in theater school at one time, and I have been in some, obviously very low level productions in my local area. And I went and saw Little Shop of Horrors, and I thought the story was just amazing. The special effects they did on the stage with Audrey was amazing at the time to me as a child. And just the thought of this little Venus flytrap becoming huge and craving human blood and manipulating everybody in its path in order to get what it wants. And I just thought it was super clever. And it was a fun musical as well. And I still like Little Shop of Horrors, like all the songs from it. Like, it's such a happy, upbeat musical that has a really sad ending. Like, it's a really depressing ending. So it's really funny that some of the songs are just so happy. But anyway, Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors is my number 4.
I gotta give a shout out to the guy who actually voiced Audrey 2. It's the lead singer of the Four Tops.
Oh yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Nice.
amazing performance.
All right. So my number three, this one is very like I would be shocked if it's not on someone's list, but it is Frankenstein's monster from the 1931 film Frankenstein, because I mean this is one of the all-time great monsters in monster cinema. Like even for this day, the makeup effects look absolutely incredible. Boris Karloff just amazing as the monster himself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just love this because he's just a huge beast that is very sympathetic because he doesn't know what's going on. He just got created and then he's treated as the villain.
He's like how I
And
felt this morning after last night.
yeah, you don't know what's going on when you woke up. You're just like,
I don't know what's going on either. It was great.
Why is this hunchback beating me?
That's exactly what was happening.
I mean, what all could be said? This movie, like the monster itself, is absolutely incredible. The effects are amazing on him, and yeah, one of the greatest classic horror films of all time.
What can you say? Frankenstein's the man, right?
Exactly. And then what is your number three, Derek?
Well, this is going to be an interesting one because I kind of wanted to go with a movie that is kind of like a hidden gem for me, and that is the splinter organisms from the movie Splinter.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, that's cool. That's cool.
If I had to actually pick a form of these creatures, it would be, when they take that half of one body and join to another body.
Yes.
And it's like this crazy spider human thing. But I just like the simplicity of these little black splinters that are everywhere. And if one of them gets to you, it will fuck your day up. As we see with the Shea Wiggum character in the movie, where he gets one in his hand and it's slowly affecting his whole body. It's going up. And they actually, if you haven't seen it, slight spoiler, listeners, they had to chop his arm off at a certain point so he could, before it overtakes him. And I like that aspect of the movie. And it's kind of like where I see the Thing as an organism. This is the same way. This thing is kind of like, it's actually very relatable to today too, especially with like the pandemic going on, where this little fucking organism could fuck up everyone's lives if it gets out.
Great comparison, Derek.
Yeah, and I love that it's contained. It's contained all in like this little gas station. It's a good little cool flick that I think a lot of people would appreciate during this time period.
Yeah, because I actually watched that last year for the first time, and yeah, that movie was awesome, and the monster effects were freaking sweet.
Yeah.
Wow. Good choices. Good choices. So mine is a group as well because I couldn't just choose one, but the Cenobites from Hellraiser.
Nice.
Almost
on my list. Almost on my list.
Fucking creepy. Like especially the one with the teeth that's like
the
shatter.
Yeah.
Like, and imagine like you're just fucking chilling and you finish some fucking puzzle and those motherfuckers show up. Like Pinhead in itself is creepy. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the needles and everything. But then when you see his like posse, you're like, how is he like normal-ish kind of looking? And the rest of them look fucked. And the shit they say, like, we have such sights to show you. You'll never know what pain. Like,
you will tear your soul apart.
Like it's fucked. Like it's and the scene where they tear the uncle apart in that, like Christy sees him get and he's like, and Jesus wept. And like rips the shreds. Oh my god. But yeah, so the Cenobites, no matter where they are, no matter who they are motherfucking freaky. So they get number 3 for me. I never want to run into any of them.
Yeah, especially like even in part 2 when that doctor becomes one.
Yes. Oh god, yes.
And the greatest line ever, to think I resisted. Before he gets that giant worm on the top of his head that makes him fly, and then he has like little scalpels coming out of his hand and shit. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right? It's crazy fucking shit, but awesome costume design, awesome makeup. Cenobites Hellraiser, bring it in.
Yep, that was another reason why it is not on my list, just because I could not just pick one.
Yeah.
Like, Pinhead is like always gonna be iconic and my favorite, but I mean there's Butterball, and then I forget the woman's name, but
I think she's just female Cenobite.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, and they're just all super freaking creepy. So what are we? Number 2 already.
Damn.
All right, so my number 2, it got brought up on Derek's honorable mention list, but that is the xenomorph from the original Alien. I was debating between this one or the Alien Queen and Aliens, but I just love the slender phallic symbolism of this freaking monster. It is so horrific. The design, like the special effects, it's definitely HR Geiger inspired. And man, I love that it's like this biomechanical beast, and just like the weird, sleek, just kind of blackish, gross design with its little snapping jaw that comes out of its mouth. And I mean, it's already a terrifying monster, and then to add the fact that when it gets hurt, it bleeds acid. It's like that's just an extra defense mechanism that just makes this thing even more horrifying. And it can hide in the tightest spaces and blends in with everything on the Nostradamus ship, and it's just fucking creepy to this day. Like, it's still one of my all-time favorite monsters that I've grown up loving since I was a kid. I even had alien toys and everything like that when I was like 12 years old.
Nice. By 12 years old, he means last week.
Yes.
That's
well, mentally, I'm still 10, so it's
yes.
Hell yeah.
Derek, what is your number 2?
Well, I'm staring at a Funko Pop of this guy right now. The Gill Man from Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Nice.
I had to go with my favorite of the Universal monsters. It was hard to go with one, and I actually think the Gill Man hasn't looked as terrifying as he did in the original movie, especially with the blackness of his eyes underwater. It's so creepy. That iconic scene where I believe it's Julie Adams who is the actress. It was actually, that's when I figured out I loved brunettes, was that movie too. Because she's fucking gorgeous in that film. Yeah, I loved her. I was very sad when I heard about her passing recently, because that was a recent childhood memory. But yeah, that iconic scene where he's swimming underneath her, and he's like just pecking at her feet. It's like, that's why I never go swimming in like a lagoon, because like
yeah,
you never know what the fuck's in there, in that sense.
Very true.
And yeah, the creepiness of the Gill Man, he's just a creature living in his environment, and it's just to survive being like fucked with. He's just acting as an animal. That's what he is.
Yep.
Which a lot of people, you look at him as a monster, but even in like the sequel, like they take him out of his environment and put him into a cage. He's just reacting to the situation.
Right.
I would too.
And who's the real monster, right?
Exactly.
Is it him or is it humans?
Exactly. And
right.
And then they did like the third one where they actually take his gills out and make him more human-like, which is an interesting aspect of that movie. It's a good trilogy of films where you follow this creature through its journey. And I like that aspect of they're all connected, which I didn't actually know they were connected when I was younger, but I'm like, oh, these actually have continuity. That's kind of cool. So yeah, but the original, the best look, especially in the underwater shots, because even in part 2, he has those weird bulby eyes in part 2. Where it's like, ooh, and you can actually see the fucking water sticking out of them.
Yeah,
it looks kind of cheesy especially in HD transfers. So yeah, the original look of the creature in part 1, had to put it as my number 2.
Yeah, I agree.
Great choice.
Absolutely. And like, I think you made a good point on how it made people uncomfortable about swimming in the clouded water, but even more the deeper meaning of that movie.
Yeah.
And as those movies go on and what they're trying to say about society, right? Like, it's interesting that the monsters that are presented there's, and I know this is very deep here, but there's way worse monsters in our world that are not gill men, right? Like a gill man would be like the least of our concerns if it existed. And it's just really, really fascinating. It's like how aliens, we always assume that they're going to come and take our shitty planet that we've completely like polluted the shit out of. It's fascinating. But yeah, and I think also the special effects at that time when the first movie came out was incredible.
Yeah.
And the makeup, right?
For sure.
So for me, my second is the werewolf from An American Werewolf in London.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mean poodle.
Yes, mean poodle. I love the transformation of this werewolf. I think for 1981, the special effects, I believe it's a machine, like it's obviously an effect, right? Like it's not a costume. Yeah. So it's incredible. Like the face and the expectation of it. And amazing. I know that you don't see the werewolf doing tons of stuff, like you do see it in like the street of London and stuff like that, and you get that kind of standoff at the end between him and the woman that he's fallen in love with in a total of 72 hours. But I like, I love you, I just met you 3 days ago. But I just love for that time and the effects of it. And I want to give a small little shout out to his best friend, who slowly decays, even though he's not a monster. The slow decay of him as he shows up throughout the entire film is awesome too when it comes to special effects. I think An American Werewolf in London is one of the better werewolf movies out there. There's been some great ones recently, don't get me wrong, but I just love that transformation.
Yeah, that transformation scene is and will continue to be one of the best werewolf transformation scenes ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like, first time I ever seen that, it was like when I was 6. I'm like, why is this dude naked? And what the fuck's happened to him? And then his arm just fucking stretches out. I'm like, oh shit. I felt that. I felt like arthritis at that time. Like, and then his jaws, I like that there's comedy in the movie, even though the movie's actually very fucking dark, especially with its comedy. But there's some lightheartedness, like a naked American man stole my balloons.
Yes, I love that.
It's a fun movie. One of my favorite John Landis's movies for sure.
Yeah, and the special effects by Rick Baker. Mwah.
Right? You can't go wrong.
All right, so y'all knew this was coming. My number one. So of course, Gremlins is my all-time favorite movie of Gremlins 1 and 2. I could have literally made just a top five list of all the different Gremlins, especially when it comes to Part 2's Gremlins. So this took me a long, hard time to think about which one I was going to put in this list. And speaking of Rick Baker, I chose one from Part 2 because he did the special effects in that. And that, because in Part 2, there's just like the regular Gremlins, and then there's the mutated versions of those same Gremlins later on in the film. So there was different variations I had to think about. So for my number one, I went with Gremlins 2, and I chose Mohawk and his spider form. Because, dear God, that thing is absolutely horrifying, and to this day still stands up as one of the coolest looking freaking monsters that I have ever seen with the special effects. The design of the design and the animatronics used to create this thing is absolutely incredible. And for such an amazing, scary monster and such a goofball comedy of a film, it's just kind of fits with that film. But at the same time, I am just very sad that you only get like maybe 2 minutes of him as his full spider form before Gizmo comes out and kicks his ass as little Rambo Gizmo.
I actually have a funny story about Gremlins too.
Ooh.
I actually seen this in theaters.
So did I.
And I forget what time, 91, I think, right?
1990.
90. So I was 4 or 5 at the time. And, once he started to multiply and do like, the other Gremlins, little Mogwai come out. Mohawk Mogwai just pops out of nowhere, scared the fucking shit out of me. And I was just covered for the rest of the movie. I didn't even watch Gremlins 2 for the longest time because I was just terrified of his fucking Mogwai form.
Yeah, his Mogwai form was even like, they made him look so freaking evil.
like I didn't watch that. I had nightmares of Gremlins for years after that because nightmares of Gremlins tearing me apart just because of that one scene of just a Mogwai form of that creature. But then, over time, I'm like, it's not too bad, getting older. 5 years old scarred me for life. But
yeah, I could see that.
Talking about it scarred me for life. At 38, how often we have to bring up Gremlins, but I'm not surprised, Scott, and I'm glad you got to put them on your list.
Yeah, I almost went with the vegetable gremlin just because I love the design of him. I just love the design of the vegetables on him. And all right, NECA, if anybody working from NECA hears this, you guys are doing an amazing job bringing me these awesome Gremlins toys.
Oh, for sure, they listen.
Yes. Make a vegetable gremlin figure. That is all I freaking ask.
You're such a nerd. You're such a nerd.
I am.
Oh my God. You're keeping the Gremlins franchise alive and well. Single-handedly. Single-handedly.
So, Derek, what is your number one?
My number one might not be what everyone's thinking it's going to be.
Ooh,
I have picked the Jotun from David Bruckner's The Ritual.
really?
Oh, wow.
I didn't even think about that one. Holy shit.
The most unique looking monster I ever seen in a film ever. It actually creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah, because that's the Netflix one, right?
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
one, Derek. That's really good one.
good.
I just love the look of the creature so much in this. It's one of the most unique designs because this creature is actually I was actually cracking up because I was watching Thor actually recently. You know, he's the bastard son of Loki, this monster. So I'm like, Tom Hiddleston gave birth to that? Because that's all I was thinking about at the time. But I just love the look of it. I love how actually on rewatch you could see it in the background, and it's just creepy of certain scenes.
Yeah, that monster like is incredible because it's almost like a demonic centaur.
Yeah. And it's just creepy. It has like these little human arms, and the end of it, it picks people up. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's freaking terrifying.
Yeah, I just that movie's just great. It's a great folk horror movie, and I'm very excited for the rest of Bruckner's career because I remember actually one of my honorable mentions was a short for VHS, Amateur Night, where he did the Succubus.
Oh yes, I like you. I
Yeah,
like you.
yeah, you know, and he was actually supposed to direct a Friday the 13th sequel at one point, which that fell through. And
I would love to see that.
Yeah, and this is, if you watch this with like the original Blair Witch, The Ritual, and very inspired by the Blair Witch, this movie, especially with like how they're getting lost and just the setting in general. And it's a good double feature with Midsummer too. Never go to Sweden.
Right?
It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Man, that is an excellent choice because that one just completely slipped my mind.
Good one. Yeah, we've called in a lot of different ones actually, which is great. My number one is Brundlefly from The Fly.
Nice. I had a feeling someone was going to bring it up, so I left it off my list.
Yeah, he's fucking creepy as hell, and the way that Jeff, like when he's in that in between stage where he can still kind of talk. But he's jumping on the walls and shit. Like,
this is how I eat with the donut. Oh god.
Yeah, like it's the slow decline. Like they drag out that decline of him. And I'm always, the point where this is a spoiler, where she has like the gun, and I'm like, shoot him, bitch! What are you waiting for? Like, what are you waiting for? Put this dude out of his fucking misery. Like, what are you doing? I just love that film. I think how they show him slowly becoming a monster and how it changes him as a person is incredible. And then her dreams about having a baby fly, like it's just the whole movie is so tied into his slow descent and the makeup and his interactions and the lines and how he delivers them. Awesome. I don't think Jeff Goldblum is the best actor out there. I'll never say he is. But I think for this role, he did what he needed to do to make that monster believable and creepy. And I still can't, when people arm wrestle and he snaps, that scene still haunts me.
Yeah.
The thought of your wrist just snapping like that. Oh my God. So yeah, he got number one on my list for top monsters.
And we can't forget the whole like, oh, I lost a piece of my body. Let me put it in a jar in the medicine cabinet, and you see like his
Museum of
in
Brundle.
there. And
the Museum of Brundle's Wonders,
Right? Oh man, such a good film. Such a good film.
Yeah, the thing with that movie, which I actually tell people when they first watch it, it's kind of like it's actually David Cronenberg, when he was making this movie, actually lost his mom to cancer.
Oh
wow.
And that's how he wanted to portray the transformation, as if somebody you love is getting sick, and how if you go for like chemotherapy and shit like that, how that transforms the people.
Yeah.
And that's what he wanted to do with like the way Brundle acts in the film.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because he totally did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
that's a great comparison.
Yeah, and my favorite scene of that movie is actually when he's talking about insect politics, and that's such a great scene of Goldblum acting. And I'm a huge Goldblum fan, but The Fly is definitely his best performance in my opinion.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. Though I did enjoy him in Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
like
there.
I thought he
Jeff-
was funny.
Jeff Goldblum just basically became the caricature of Jeff Goldblum moving
Yes.
forward. Like everyone knows him as his weird, quirky personality now, so he just fucking rolls with it. And hey, good for him because I am all about it.
It works, right?
Yeah.
It works. So those are our top 5 monster movies. It was such a awesome experience because we all had different stuff. Only one real similar one
Yeah.
that made all of our
Pumpkinhead.
lists Pumpkinhead.
Pumpkinhead.
And then the rest were all really different. So hopefully we've given you some monster movies to check out. As everyone who's listening to this is aware, this is a Legion Patreon special. We do drop it first on our Legion Patreon page, and then we release it to the regular Friday Nightmare feed a couple weeks afterwards. So if you didn't want to wait for this, then I suggest that you become a Legion Patreon member. There's lots of special shows that are on there. Bo does Ouija experiment shows. There's been List of Legends. I know
Cinema
Psyops does some special episodes as well. So we encourage you, if you haven't joined Legion Patreon yet, what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
$2 a month.
$2.
It's not bad. And you get all that.
You get all that. You get all the shows.
Yeah, and
We're
I think
just
every
one big
show,
gangbang.
and I think every show on Legion is at least going to do one thing a year, maybe more. Because, like,
Yeah.
Cinema Psyops, what they are doing is it is the same episode that we hear on their regular feed, except they're using Court's able to use the licensed music that he started off with when he created the show. And the man is a madman when it comes to like spending the time finding music that fits the theme for each movie. So like this was his wheelhouse when he was able to do that. So he's able to bring that back. So yeah, you get the original music instead of the, what do they call that? The public domain music that he's forced to use on the main feed. And I think Gary Hill has been starting to do some things on there as well. Yep. So we got a lot of great content on there now, and we're just adding more and more as it goes, it seems.
Absolutely. And also you can hit subscribe on the Legion homepage. Please subscribe to all of our shows. Subscribe on any podcast service of choice, whether that be iTunes or Podcast Addict or Spotify, whatever you use, you'll be able to find us. Now, Derek, do you want to give a shout out to your shows so people know where to find you again? I know we talked about it earlier, but just so people can locate you.
Yeah, sure. My main show, Cinema Attack, can be found on Anchor. We actually just moved. We're independent now. We're on Anchor. We have a few episodes out there, and soon Celluloid Dissections Redux will be on the same feed. So just go to anchor.fm and search for Cinema Attack, and you can find us there. Also, No More Room in Hell is on the Dark Discussions Network. Just search for Dark Discussions or No More Room in Hell, and you'll be able to find it on any podcatchers. They Are Here podcast, which I do with the Miss Lacey Lou. You can find that on the Cut to the Chase feed, which is also on Anchor, I believe. So look for that. And Underwater Kaiju, I think, is still kind of on a hiatus. I'm not really too sure. I don't want to put any, but you can find the old episodes on Legion Podcast, as always. And if you are subscribed to the Legion Patreon, me and Mr. Gary Hill actually do a show that's actually a Patreon exclusive called Blood from the Core.
Oh, perfect.
That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah, where we look at New York-based thriller/horror movies. We have a few episodes out. On the first one we did was The Sentinel, and we did Q the Winged Serpent, which is another honorable mention for me. Check out Q if you haven't seen it. Cool monster movie. And we also recently did one we released live also, where we went to New Jersey and talked about Alice, Sweet Alice. So yeah, you can find that anywhere, but that's about it for me. A few guest spots here and there, but yeah, I'm a whore. Whatever.
We all are.
Love it.
But yeah, I just wanted to, because I didn't get a chance to say much earlier, but yeah, thank you very much, Derek, for joining us. Because I actually, because once again, like how Heather said, you were very welcoming to me as well in the horror community, the podcast community. And I had actually, back when I was working third shift, which was probably like 7-8 years ago now, I actually came across you doing the 22 shots, like when you were on being called 10 out of 10 Derek. And like, yeah, I loved those freaking episodes, because those episodes got me through very long, lonely nights working like 9 to 10 hours by myself. And they were fantastic. And then, yep, been fan of yours ever since and a friend of yours since the beginning. And I am so happy you are able to join us for this today.
Yeah, and I know you probably like you didn't even mention Godzilla once on this show. Like
I had a feeling you may leave it out. I had a feeling because I know your love for it, but I had a feeling it may be left out.
Yeah, because I was kind of like you at the sense too, where it was like, which one do I go with?
Right.
But maybe we could do like a different version of this episode where we actually could talk about that in a format that's more suitable too.
Yeah, there's plenty of options for other top fives that we will be doing as we go forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I had fun, and thank you guys. This is a nice, fun, easy show, and you guys have made me laugh a few times, so that was good stuff.
Yay.
Hey, that's something. We do very little, so if we can make you laugh, that's impressive. So you know where to check out Derek. Please listen to his shows. He's awesome. Scott and I will be back with one more regular episode on our feed before his hopeful trip out to see me.
Well, I think we'll be recording it before I come to visit, and it'll be released after I get back. I think that's how it's going to be. If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, you're probably okay. We'll talk about that off air.
Actually, no, never mind. Yes, it will be out. Actually,
it's Scott's like, I'm not going to release it. I just don't want to.
I think what will happen is it will be released a day before Friday, so it'll be on a Thursday night instead.
It will be a Thursday nightmare because the Friday nightmares are going to be getting in person. Half.
Yeah.
So Derek, thank you again. We will be back next month with another top 5 with another fellow podcaster. So Scotty, what do you have to say to the good people in the meantime?
Well, until next time on Spooky Dreams.
Bye, everyone.